हरि ओम्। वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरुसाक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste, friends. Welcome to the session 39 of the new series Gift, Gita for Inner Freedom and Transformation, a study of selected verses from Bhagavad Gita based on Shankara Bhashya. We have begun our study of chapter 8 in our last class, and today we will continue our study with the verses 8.6 to 8.10. To explain these verses, we have Dr. Chandrakala, Dr. Sundar, Dr. Sanjay Mehrotra, Dr. Ashwini, and Srimati Vidya Prabhu. Dr. Kiran sir will moderate the session and bring out the final points. Over to you, Kiran sir.
Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. Namaste, friends. Death is such an enigma that we spend all our life trying to understand it. But in the end, when the death comes knocking at our door, we will often be as confused as ever. 8th chapter, that is Akshara Brahma Yoga, Lord Krishna deals with this unique subject. Of course, in Kathopanishad also, the Lord of Death, Yama, has also dealt with this subject. But here, even though it is called as off the track chapter, this provides very unique understanding of this death and what exactly it is and what to do about it. Actually, the foundation was laid in the previous verse, the previous chapter, with these questions. That is, what is Brahman? What is Adhyatmam? What is Karma? What is Adibhuta? Etc. Which the Arjuna asks, picking up from the last verses of the previous chapter. Let us just recollect these before we proceed further. What is Brahman? Here, Lord Krishna gives a unique definition as Paramam Aksharam Brahman. That is, imperishable principle. That is the highest principle, that Parama, that is Huspar. There is nothing beyond that to understand. That is not this principle, he says as Brahman. That is the basis of everything. In 13th chapter and in 15th chapter, he deals with the subtle entities of this. Now, let us concentrate on what Krishna is trying to say right now. Adhyatmam is all pervading. This consciousness is present in individual bodies also. This is called as Adhyatma or Microatma, we can call it as in an easier way. Next is what is karma. Here also he gives very, very unique definition, but this is very, very true and very apt also. What is karma? He says this Srishti Karanam Karma, because the whole creation has come into being because of the karma. Always one question comes to us is, why Lord created this world? And anytime if we are very sad or something, bad happens, we say, why this God made this world? What is that? What mistake I've done? What is that? It is not like that. God has not created world. The world has created because of the samashti karma of everybody. And if at all we see the world as it is because of us, and we don't have to blame anybody else. It is our past deed, our karma pala, and our vasanas which has created this world and not Bhagwan's wish. What is Adibhutam? Adibhutam is a perishable thing that all we know, Pancha, Bhutas, etc. And Adi Daiva, or defines as Purushaha here. Here it is again slightly different. That is Hiranya Garbha. That is the consciousness associated with total subtle body. So these are the 5 definitions. And in short, Brahman is the Paramam, that is indestructible, ever pervading consciousness. Adhyatmam, that is the in every being. Karma is the Srishti. Adi Bhutam is what is the world we see, Panchabhutas, and Adi Daivam is Hiranyagya. The last question is, which he has asked is, before that, let us go into Adi Yagna. What is that? Ahameva. That is, I am the Adi Yagna. Here, what he means is not the Uttama Purusha, or what we call the consciousness or Brahman. Here, what is it is called as Ishvara. Ishvara is Maya Sahita Brahma is called as Ishvaraha, which is what he says. This is behind all the actions we do and thoughts. Now, always what is death? Is it the end that we will be always thinking? No. According to our culture, the world is not linear, or our life, or we see Janma, etc., is not linear. It is circular. That means there is no starting, there is no ending. And we are involved in eternity. And we are here since the very beginning, if there was any beginning. That is the uh, crux of the whole thing. And if there is going to be an end, pralaya or whatever it is, we are going to be there, and we are going to be the witness to that end. This is the beautiful concept which is there in our Vedanta. And this whole life, Osho says beautifully, is nothing but song of life. The Lord wants us to repeatedly sing the song of life such that it coincides with nature, it coincides with the beauty, it coincides with the world, it coincides with the dharma, it coincides with the everything what He wants it to be. Till we get it right, you will be taking birth after birth. As the, in a music, you keep on rehearsing till you get the raga correct, swara correct. Here, till we understand the swarupa of the Lord, we keep on taking this birth. The sooner we understand the swarupa, our song becomes the beauty. And just like this example of the peanuts, here he keeps on musing to himself, one day we will die, but till then, every moment we are alive. We should be thankful for that, and we should be thankful for the Lord for that. So the choice is us whether to think and be in the samsara, like this person who is caught in the, hanging down the tree, and trying to hang into samsara, where even elephant is trying to break the tree, and down there's a pool with snakes. Or think of Lord and then get rid of all these. The choice is of us whether to move from Madhu, attracted to the honey of this world, or to think of Madhusudana and get out of this eternal sorry go round. The choice is ours. Here in this chapter, there are two types of mukti, or enlightenment, or freedom from this cycle of samsara, which is explained. One is the krama mukti, and another is not akrama mukti. It is easily can be called as jivan mukti or sadhya mukti. That is instant, here and now. That is only possible because of jnana yoga. Other forms such as saguna ishvara upasana, etc., will give an indirect one, or what we call krama mukti. When we do saguna nishkama upasana, we will be eligible for Brahma loka, where Lord Brahma or Prajapati or one of those, you will get a better understanding, etc. But ultimately, the gnanam is same. The gnanam only will give mukti, no other thing, no other japa, no other things, etc., etc. Whatever we done to do will give mukti. Here, one of the things, the crux we need to understand is he explains all these difficult steps to discourage from us from taking this krama mukti and jump to jnana yoga as soon as possible. Just like in our Vedanta, if you want some wealth, you have some, you have to do some yajna and other things. It will be so difficult. What Veda is trying to tell you is, instead of doing all that, why don't you jump into uh, the Shreyas and get into the Jivan Mukta instead of struggling. But we always, what we do, we try to go the indirect way, or the most difficult way, and end up in problem. So here also, Lord Krishna begs us, this is a difficult path. Just jump out of it and take the Gnana Yoga. That is what he tells us. Now, how to do it is that we will learn from this chapter from 8.6 to 8.1. The next verse, that is 8.6, will be explained by Dr. Chandrakala. Chandrakala, please.
Thank you, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We have learned in verse 8.5, Lord Krishna saying that dropping the body at the time of death, one who departs remembering me alone attains my nature. Coming to verse 8.6, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tat bhava bhavitaha. Next slide, sir. Lord says, Kalevaram ante tyajate. Kalevaram, the body, ante, at the time of death, tyajate, giving up. Suppose a person drops the physical body at the time of death. How? Yam yam bhavam smaran. Whatever objects remembered in mind, bhavam, such a condition, tam tam eva iti. Tam tam, the very object, eva iti, one attains. He will certainly attain only such a birth which is in keeping with the person's thought process. So, Lord says, Arjuna, you remember that at the time of death, whatever one thinks, that will determine one's next birth. So, can we say, why should I be bothered now? I think of it at the time of death. Can I say that? The answer is no, because I don't know my death date. The second one, the thought of a person is governed by two forces. One is the will of a person, the other one is vasanas, that is habit or samskara of a person. At any time, the thought we have in our mind will be decided by one of the two. Sometime will become successful and other time vasana becomes successful. Will plan something, vasana decides something. As we grow older, vasana becomes more powerful and will becomes feebler. As subconscious mind is saturated with thoughts, during death, when mental faculties are failing, it is almost impossible to remember what we want. So, Lord says the only alternative method is our vasanas must be Shubha vasanas, that is, godly vasanas. One has to saturate subconscious mind with Ishvara Chintana or Daivi Sampatti. Then alone, even if will is feebler or if the person is in coma, the subconscious will have what one has trained. So, if you have to think of Lord at the last moment, the preparation has to happen now itself. So he says, Sada Tad Bhava Ishvara Chintana. Tad Ishvara Bhava Chintana. How? Bhavitaha. That is repeated thinking is needed. That should be soaked in. When? Sada. All the time. Always. How? By constant practice. So Arjuna, Sada Tadbhava Bhavitaha. So be ever committed to your ultimate goal of God. So next slide, sir. There is a famous proverb. Next slide, sir. There is a famous proverb, as a person thinks, so a person becomes. Previous slides are now. Yeah. So this law is, in fact, is not a law applicable only after death, but it is a law applicable within this life also. As a person thinks, so he becomes. When one remembers God subconsciously all the time, then alone he will do so even at the time of death. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Chandrakalaji. There is a joke. Once a businessman is on his deathbed, and Lord goes near him and just waits what he does to think. First he calls, "Oh Rama," then at least now he is remembering me. Lord thinks. Then he calls, "Oh Krishna," then again, "Oh, good, not bad." Then both his sons Rama and Krishna comes. Then he tells them, "Hey, you fools, who is taking care of the shop?" All our life we are embroiled in this world, materialistic things, doing activities, etc., without even thinking that who is responsible, who is the one behind all these. And we expect at the end to remember him. No, it is not possible, as Chandrakalaji has explained. For that, we need to make preparations for ourselves, so that in the end, our goal should be Jivan Mukti. And for some reason we are not able to reach that goal, then we should be in this stage where we can remember the Lord at the time of the death. This is the key. This is what Lord is repeatedly telling. The next verse, Dr. Sundar will explain. Sundar, please.
हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः तस्मात् सर्वेषु कालेषु माम् अनुस्मर युज्य च मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः मामे वैश्यस्य संशयः. In this next slide, we do a compare and contrast between people who seek material results and people who seek spiritual results. Belonging to the first category are the Sakama Bhaktas, Arthartharthi Bhaktas, for whom God is a means to a worldly goal. Belonging to the spiritual results category are those Bhaktas who have tried Sakama Bhakti. God has blessed them with material results, as we have seen in the 7th chapter. But they have found that lasting happiness, peace, and security is elusive. So these clever bhaktas then change the approach to life by reversing the equation, by making all their accomplishments, worldly accomplishments, as the means, and making God the goal. The rule is the mind is always occupied with the goal. Our connection with the means is only to that extent where the means are useful to us. From this simple rule, we come to know that the connect of the Sakama Bhaktas, those who are after material results, with God is at best fleeting. They are connected to God only when a new endeavor is being started or when they are in trouble, because they are always focused on the goal, which is the worldly accomplishments. Whereas for those after spiritual results, since God is now the goal himself, they are all the time occupied about God. And this difference means that the connection with God is continuous, persistent for those who are after spiritual results. With this understanding, let us now in this next slide try to understand what is the important message in this chapter. Many things are dealt with in this chapter, but the important underlying theme for the majority of verses being how to remember God at all times. Through Karma Yoga Sadhana, Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakti, one is able to remember God at all times, and the immediate benefits are Samatvam, Chitta Shuddhi, Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, which itself makes our life calm. In the longer run, it also yields benefits like Krama Mukti, as we shall see by the end of this chapter, or it gives us Jnana Yogyata to perceive Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam through a Guru Shastra Sampradaya and helps us to get Jivan Mukti itself. In this next slide, let us see how this chapter elaborates this important message of remembering God at all times. So the 7th question Arjuna asked was, what is the significance of remembering God at the time of death? Subsequently, 2 more questions arise. So this chapter is arranged in such a way that there are 3 questions as I have put up here, and they lead to 3 answers which we can carry home from this chapter as 3 rules that we can follow as seekers. So the first question is, what is significance of remembering God at the time of death? So this we have already seen in the previous verse. Whatever one remembers at the time of death, that alone one attains. So if you remember God at the time of death, you shall attain to him. This answer or rule 1 leads us to the second question. Even when I am hale and hearty, I don't seem to always be connected to God. How then will I remember Him when I am at pain at the time of death? So that is the question 2. And the answer for that is in the form of a rule number 2, which is that you can remember Him at the time of death if you practice to remember Him at all times. So this is what comes through as the message in the verses 6, 7, and 8. This leads us to the third question: how to remember God always? The answer for this then forms the third rule in this chapter, which is in the form of surrendering my mind and intellect to Him. How to do that, we shall see in this verse. In the 8th and 14th verses, other ways of remembering Him at all times are mentioned, which is practicing valuing Him at all the time, and also always remembering that my fundamental relationship with Him is there as a karanam or cause of everything in this world, among other things. Now, in this next slide, let us explore this verse proper. So, once we do Padacheda and rearrange in the Anvaya, we see Tasmat is a reference or a separator of this verse from the previous. It is therefore. Therefore means according to the rule 1, which is set in the previous verse, that if I remember God at the time of death, I shall attain to Him. So that word covers the first rule, which this chapter brings us. Now the second line is Tvam Mam Sarveshu Kaleshu Anusmara Yudhyacha. So this second line is in the form of the second rule. That is, you can remember at the time of death by remembering me at all times. The third line in this verse is Maya arpita manah buddhi tvam mamev aishyas asamshaya. If you follow the second rule of remembering me at all times, then you shall undoubtedly attain to me. So while giving this third rule in this third line, Lord Krishna qualifies Tvam, that is Arjuna, with a special adjective, which is Mai Arpita Mano Buddhi. The word itself contains within it the formula for remembering Him always, as we shall see further. Some of the points which Pujya Swami Paramarthananda ji brings out, let us see. One is Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, Anusmara Yudhyacha. If I remember God at all times, does it mean that I should drop my day-to-day work and sit just remembering Him? So to clarify that in the Bhashyam, Adi Shankaracharya mentions that this is not Kevala Upasana. That is not what is prescribed here, but it is Upasana Upasana Karma Samuchaya. That is, you have to mix meditation of God and your day-to-day duties or Swadharma. That is what is prescribed. Question arises, how am I to do two activities at that same time? Because my mind is unable to perform two conscious activities at the same time. This Swamiji explains by saying that this Anusmara or Upasana is happening spontaneously, effortlessly at the subconscious mind level. Swamiji explains that there is no direct corridor to the subconscious mind. The corridor is through the conscious mind. So whenever we are free, we practice remembering God so that it happens spontaneously, without any effort in the background subconsciously. So then, even when we are undertaking our activities, yeah, as it was Yuddha for Arjuna, whatever Swadharma we are taking to, subconsciously Ishvara Smaranam happens. Now, this important verse, Mai Arpita Mana Buddhi. So this is in the subjective case. It is the name of the Upasaka who is able to continuously remember God and therefore at the time of death also. The word means that we have to surrender our mind and intellect to Him. What is the meaning of surrendering the mind? This Swamiji explains by saying that we should set our raga dveshas aside when our jnana karmendriyas are active. Instead of going by my likes and dislike, I need to go by what I ought to do, which is Ishvara Arpanam and Ishvara Prasada. Going by ragadveshas, there is no connect with God. The moment I start leading my life through Ishvara Arpanam and Ishvara Prasada, whatever I may be doing, then at all points there is a connect with God. What is the meaning of surrendering buddhi to Him? We have so many relationships around us. It may be living, non-living things, but the cause for all of them is God. Moving from karya drishti to karana drishti is the meaning of surrendering our intellect to Him. Then we automatically divinize this world. We don't see plurality in a secular way. We see divinity all around. So this beautiful word then gives us the formula how to remember Him, God, at all times. And then, as we have seen in the previous slide, it paves the way for Krama Mukti, or even better, with Chitta Shuddhi, Sadhana Chatustaya Sampatti, to Jivan Mukti in this life itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sundar. That was a very important verse, very beautifully and aptly covered. Smriti, always in the background, Samyak Smriti as it is called, always in the background, Lord should be there in our all activities and not activities. Just like how a mother will be doing many activities, but the child will always be on her mind. Similar to that, in all our activities, whatever we do, Lord should be always in the background. That doesn't mean that, as Sundar has explained, that we do some work, bad work, everything, and in the end we remember God. It is not possible like that. Only whatever karma we are doing, which is in line with dharma, which is in line with the flow, which is in line with the wish of the God, when we are doing that activity, then it is possible to keep Lord in the background. Here, Arjuna wants to escape from the battle, but his dharma, his swadharma, and his aptitude all points otherwise. This is a dharma yuddha, and he is a warrior, kshatriya. His job is to do or war for the establishment of dharma. That is why here Krishna very beautifully says that you may remember the Lord, not like, you will take sannyasa, etc., and do your work, that is yuddha. You perform your, however bad it looks, that is your swadharma, you do that. And what is the basis of all this? Shruti, previous chapters he has beautifully told. Shruti is the basis, Shruti is the Shastra which will guide you to do dharma activities. When you are in line with dharma activities and you do it as Ishvara Arpana Bhava and Prasada Manobhava, then naturally the spirituality will be inculcated, and as Sundar has told, it will be easier for you to remember Lord, and it's in fact just doing this itself is remembering Lord. That is what he is indirectly trying to do it. Tell. And what we have to remember about the Lord, etc. Further verses will tell. Next verse is told by Dr. Sanjay Mehrata.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Bhagavad Gita, Gift Session 39, Chapter 8, Verse 8. In the introduction to the verse, throughout the teachings of the Gita, Krishna has talked about the Abhyasa Yoga, which actually means the discipline of spiritual exercise to obtain tranquility, which, in other words, we can call it either meditation or dhyanam. This meditation can be either saguna dhyanam, which when done regularly will lead to smaranam at the time of death, because you do need practice of this very regularly. And once the mind has become one-pointed, it would become part of your life. The mind should become so concentrated that it cannot take itself from its Ishta, and it finally merges with the Hiranyagarbha Rupa Ishvara. Now the verse says, Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena Chetasa Na Anyagamina Paramam Purusham Divyam Yati Partha Anuchintayan. O Partha, O Arjuna, Anuchintayan Purusham. Constantly thinking of the Lord, remembering the Lord, with the mind, chetasa, na anyagamina, which means the mind which is undistracted, which is constantly thinking about the Lord. Due to constant practice, abhyasa yoga yuktena, of this meditation, one attains divyam, the divine, paramam, the supreme Lord. O Arjuna, constantly thinking of the Lord with a mind that is undistracted due to practice of meditation, one attains the divine supreme. Paramam Purusham Divyam, the Lord, which is the highest reality, is also known as Purusha. And there are two meanings of which. The Purusha is one which resides in the heart of all beings, the indweller of all. And the another meaning is Purusha may be one, Puriyati Sarva iti Purusha. The one who fills up the world, who is everywhere, that Purnam, that completeness is Divyam. It is Parama Purusha Divyam. If he is remembered at the time of death with the mind, which is mind means chetasa, what kind of mind? Abhyasa yoga yuktena, which has practiced and repeatedly done sadhana and is undistracted, na anyagamina. Such a mind would attain will merge in God, means would attain krama mukti. Hari Om. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjay Mahrotra. Here, Lord is telling about Parama Purusha, that is the glory of the Lord. If what we want to remember about the God, what is that we want to remember about the Lord? He has beautifully explained. If I want to meditate upon what is that Parama Purusha, that means Purusha is that part of the Lord or Brahman which is there in every you, me and you. That is in the Puram, in the city of this body, who is the Lord who resides here, the owner, that is Purusha. That we need to think. The glory of the Lord we need to think, not some selfish means, etc. That is what we need to remember. And what is that glory? What is that Paramapurusha, etc.? We will explain further and more elaborately in further in 9th and subsequent chapters. For the next verse, I request Dr. Ashwini to explain this.
Thank you, Kiran sir. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanusmaredhyah Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Adityavarnam Tamasah Parastat. Now, Lord Krishna does not seem to be satisfied describing Bhagavan as Divyam and Paramam. Hence, he dedicates one complete shloka for Ishvara Varnanam. This shloka further describes about that Vishnu. The scriptural practice is such that even though Saguna Upasaka does not understand Nirguna Brahma, the words describing Nirguna Brahma are always presented. For example, Vishnu Sahasranama and Lalita Sahasranama has words like Aprameya, Nirguna, Nishkala, Nitya, Prakriti Rupa, Avyakta, etc. When Upasaka utters these words, even if she or he may not know the significance, but gradually gets familiar and should be able to interpret them sometime. Next slide, sir. Looking into the verse, Kavim Kranta Darshanam Sarvagnyam. Kavim is the first word which is used here. It's equivalent to Kranta Darshanam. Kranta, which means beyond, and Darshi means the seer. Krantadarshi means the Lord who can see beyond the present. Bhagavan is someone who is Trikala-darshinam. Omniscient are the ones who are Trikala-darshis, where they know the past, present and future. So, Sarvagnas, one who knows everything. Puranam Chirantanam. Puranam is Chirantanam, the most ancient one. Since Ishvara has no beginning, he who is primordial, Sarvakaranatvat, Anaditvat, Chirantanam. Next slide, sir. Anushasitaram Sarvasya Jagataha Prashasitaram. Prashasita means one who runs the show, more like a controller. Here it means Sarvasya Jagataha Prashasitaha. he who rules the entire universe. Ano aniyamsam, anoho sukshmatapi. It is described as that which is compared to the subtlest object of universe. The subtlest object one can imagine is Akashaha. Here, Ishvara is subtler than Akashaha as he is Nirgunaha. Hence, Anoho Aniyamsam is a Nirguna Varnanam. Now we have to observe that both Saguna and Nirguna Varnanam are presented in this shloka. Anusmaret anuchintayet yah kaschita. It is to meditate upon yah kaschita, which means that bhakti which can be in the form of Ishvara Chintanam, Ishvara Namasmaranam or Nama Kirtanam, which became gradually popular because of the inclusivity with disregards to one's Varna, Gotra or Sutra. Sarvasya karma phala jatasya. The suffix jata is indicating multitude or group. So all the karma phalam of all the jiva rashis. Dhataram vichitrataya pranibhya vibhaktaram. Adi Shankaracharya uses the word vibhaktaram, which means vibhajya dataram, apportion and allot. Bhagavan alone apportions the karma phalams and allots to the respective jivas. Since it does not and cannot happen collectively, the word vichitrataya is used. It infers that karma phalams are unique. Hence, sarvasya dhataram, one who allots to everyone. Achintya Rupam. Adi Shankaracharya calls Bhagavan one who is of inexplicable form, which is basically a Rupam, and can refer to both Saguna and Nirguna. Here, if we are referring to Nirguna, we should understand that it is unthinkable. And if it's Saguna, we should understand that Shastram describes Saguna as an extraordinary form, that which cannot be conceived by anyone. Because there is no form for conceiving. To put it in simple words, Bhagavan with extraordinary form or without a form is unthinkable. Next slide, sir. Aditya Varnam. Aditya Varnam is Adityasya iva Varnaha yasya tama, who is brilliant like the brilliance of sun. Varnaha in this context is brilliance. Brilliance of Surya Bhagavan comes as visual perception, something which is under Maya, whereas Bhagavan's brilliance is in the form of Chaitanyam. Bhautika Jyoti is Surya, Abhautika Jyoti is Ishvara. Hence, Nitya Chaitanya Prakasham is the brilliance of the consciousness principle. As we understand that Surya Bhagavan can illumine all the objects with his brilliance or Prakashaha, Chaitanyam can illumine everything in this creation. Tamasah Parastat. Tamasa is darkness. In this context, darkness means Ajnana Lakshanat, darkness of ignorance, or Moha Andhakarat. Moha is delusion. It means Ishvara is beyond delusion. Now, this Ashtaguna Visheshana Ishvara Anusmaret, meditating on such a god of this description, such a Upasaka will merge into the Lord. Now, having both Nirguna and Saguna descriptions in one shloka is a way to acknowledge and reconcile the seeming paradox between two perspectives. Now, it recognizes that Brahman transcends human limitations and should be approached from both the angles. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwini. Here, how to remember the God, what Dr. Sundar has explained in his verse, it is continuing. We can think about small things which God may have created or it may have happened in our lives, or we can think of elated things and superlative things and glory of the things, so that we can uplift our mind, our consciousness, and our whole being to that higher self. That is what Lord Krishna here is trying to do. Two aspects I just wanted to stress. Aditya Varnam, that is as dazzling as sun, as brilliant as sun. There is a story told by Swami Chinmayanandaji, that one person approaches sun god and says, God, I want to introduce you to a madam darkness. She is very beautiful. I want you to marry her, he says. Oh, where is it? He asks. She's in that cave. As soon as the sun god enters the cave, the darkness disappears. So the paradox is where there is knowledge, there can't be ignorance. Where there is ignorance, there can't be knowledge. This is what Lord Krishna is trying to say. That consciousness which illuminates everything, including the sun, that supreme being is Lord. And that inconceivable thing, because a knowledge or a sun cannot think of darkness. Similarly, a person in dark can't think of God. Similarly, if you want to think of God, you have to be in his shoes. And that is what he is trying to say. Further of this explanation, that is Nirguna Rupam, will be done in 9th chapter. But here he moves to Saguna Upasana. The next verse will be explained by Srimati Vidya.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणम् आवेश्य सम्यक् सतं परं पुरुषम् उपैति दिव्यम्. This is the most significant verse of this chapter. Lord Krishna continues with his answer to the 7th and final question of Arjuna. How can a person remember the Lord at the time of death? Here, Lord Krishna is not talking about Artha Bhakta or Artharthi Bhakta, as there is bhakti here too, but of Mumukshu Bhakta and the Nishkama Upasaka, whose bhakti is so intense that he has practiced Ishvara Upasana throughout his life. So, Anta Kala Smaranam will be effortless as his subconscious mind will be saturated with Ishvara Chinta. So, in this verse, we learn about things that he practices that at the time of death. In this shloka, the time of upasana and the mode of remembrance is being discussed. Prayana Kale, at the time of death, that is Marana Kale. Next is to know how Bruvor Madhye Pranam Aveshya. Pranam means the very life principle that he withdraws from every organ of the body and draw the prana shakti through various nadis like Ida, Pingala, etc. to the Hridayam. And from the Hridayam, he has to direct the prana through a special nadi called Sushumna and let the prana go through Brahmarandram, a passage to Brahmaloka, a channel that is supposed to open at the top of the head. From this Brahmarandra, there is a route called Shuklagati through which the Jivatma or the prana travels, the subtle mind travels. This Shuklagati is supposed to take him to Brahmaloka, but for all these things, he has to prepare himself for all his life. First condition is Achalena Manasa, meaning without any distraction. So one must have practiced Dhyanam, Savikalpaka Samadhi and Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. Second condition is Bruvor Madhye Pranam Aveshya, meaning he has to bring the prana between the eyebrows. Once again, for Shuklagati and Kramamukti, one should have total control over his pranamaya kosha and by the practice of pranayama or Ashtanga Yoga. Therefore, Ishvara Chintanam is involved, Ishvara concentration is involved, and prana withdrawal is involved in this type of journey or the prayana. How all this can be done at a very critical period of life, for which Lord Krishna gives the answer as Yoga Balena. According to Bhashyam, yoga here means Samadhija Samskaraha. Samadhija here means born out of Samadhi, and that is Samskaraha, which means vasanas are formed in the subconscious mind or chittam by constant practice. Just as in the bank, we add money by depositing money, every samadhi deposits Ishvara Vasana in his mind through which he gets Chitta Sthiryam, which alone is Yoga Balam. Then the next condition is Bhaktya Yuktaha. One must develop intense love for the Lord. And in Bhashyam, Sri Shankaracharya says, developing attachment to the Lord is not ragaha, it is bhakti. Bhagavan Shankaracharya says bhajanam bhakti. Bhakti means bhajanam. Bhajanam means thinking, literally means serving. With such an attachment to the Lord, even though Bhagavan is a Virat Hiranyagarbha, the macro, this bhakta has involved the macro Ishvara, has invoked the macro Ishvara upon a particular Ishta Devata as Alambanam. Then he attains mukti through this practice. One must be a great upasaka as well as a great yogi for this kind of a journey. But remember, all this is for the upasakas, definitely not for the brahmajnanis. All these practices help a upasaka while dying to attain kramamukti. Saha param purusham upaiti. As a result of Ishvara Smaranam, he will attain the Lord himself. Param Divyam Purusham. That is one who indwells in every heart and one who fills up the whole creation. Param, the highest. Divyam, one who is Swayam Prakashaha Chaitanyam. Upaiti. Upaiti here means Pratipadyate. That is, such a Lord he will attain by Krama Mukti. That means not directly, but go to Brahmaloka, attend Brahmaji's class and attain moksha. This shloka is meant for upasakas. In Brahma Sutra, there is an inquiry. Where does Jnani merge into? Saguna Ishvara or Nirguna Brahma? Here, the answer is both. From the standpoint of Shariratrayam, he merges into Saguna Ishvara, which is Virat Hiranyagarbha Antaryami. From the standpoint of Atma, which he is, he merges into Nirguna Brahma. Ahankaratraya Saguna Aikyam Sakshi Drashtya Nirguna Aikyam. Swami Paramarthananda reminds us here that we being Brahmanishtas, we are definitely not voting for Kramamukti. We vote for Akramamukti, meaning knowledge here and now, not bothered about the time of death, type of death. In fact, we do not die at all. Thank you. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you, Vidyaji. That was beautifully explained. As she has explained, we, the spiritual seekers, have already voted for Akrama Mukti or Jivan Mukti. We are not interested in, doing the Shukla Gati, all those things. But we want to reach to the Akrama or Jivan Mukti here and now itself and not wait for the next. How is it possible? Even though these four practices or sadhanas are given for Krama Mukti, it is also important or it can be adapted to our life. Achala Manasa, that is Mumukshu, the single goal that we want to achieve this or Shreyas, that is very, very important for the key. And second is practice of this, we need to alter our lifestyle so that this will be conducive to it. We can't be in a very materialistic world and thinking all of this and then suddenly shift to Vedanta or yoga. It is not possible. All our life, slowly we need to get rid of what is attachments or what is ephemeral things and slowly cling to them. The other way of beautifully putting it is, the more we inculcate God into our life, the other things become less and less important. And with this, once we become intensely attached to the God, what is called as bhakti, Lord will come in the form of Guru, and then we will have Jnana Yoga and we will shift to it. So, as Vidya has already explained, death is not an end, it is journey. And every moment we now experience is death of the previous moment and birth of the next. So, in fact, if we are present in the now fully, then we understand death, we understand life. And once you live your life fully, you know the art of living, then you know the art of dying. Lord, as in previous verses has told, is the Kavi, is the poet. He has given this song to us. And once we understand and sing beautifully, then our job is done and the Jivan Mukti is here and now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran sir, and all speakers of the day for an insightful session. Thank you, friends, for your active participation. In response to our appeal, many of you have sent your Guru Dakshina. We are highly thankful to you. I request all those who have sent their Guru Dakshina offering but have not filled the Google form to kindly do so now so that we can issue receipts to you. The link to Google form is posted in all groups, including Telegram. We will continue with our study of Mandukya Upanishad in our upcoming session 13 with Karikas 14 to 18 from Vaithatya Prakaranam on 16th August 2024. Let's tune in at 6:45 p.m. on Friday. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Thank you, sir.